Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John T. I'm the DCM for District 1 in Area 93, and I'm an alcoholic. Hey, John. I'd like to welcome you all to the 41st Annual San Fernando Valley Alcoholics Anonymous Convention, the General Service Meeting. The General Service Organization, commonly known as GSO, is considered the working arm of AA. When I was coming up with the topic for this meeting, my home group is the Textbook for Living Big Book Study that meets in Chatsworth on Thursday nights. Yay. And yay! One night after the meeting, we had this lengthy discussion at the meeting, after the meeting at Bob's Big Boy on the corner of Corbin and Nordhoff, as our tradition. And after this lengthy discussion on Tradition 12 about the anonymity being the foundation of our traditions, and then the very next day I was looking for a topic for this meeting, and it was suggested to me that I look on page 7 of the General Service Conference Report, and lo and behold, there it was. Anonymity, the spiritual foundation. So that's where we are today. I've identified myself as an alcoholic. May I see the hands of other alcoholics present? Yay. Are there any newcomers in here in their first 30 days of sobriety? No? Well, welcome. We hope that you keep coming back. We hope that you all keep coming back. I have asked Sue D., who's the GSR from District 1, to read the 12 concepts.
Good morning. Sue, alcoholic.
Hey, Sue.
The 12 concepts for world service. The 12 concepts for world service were written by AA's co-founder, Bill W., and were adopted by the General Service Conference of Alcoholics Anonymous in 1962. The concepts are an interpretation of AA's world service structure as it emerged through AA's early history and experience. The short form of the concepts reads, 1. Final responsibility and ultimate authority for AA world services should always reside in the collective conscience of our whole fellowship. 2. The General Service Conference of AA has become, for nearly every practical purpose, the active voice and the effective conscience of our whole society in its world affairs. 3. To ensure effective leadership, we should endow each element of AA, the conference, the General Service Board, and its service corporations, staffs, committees, and executives with a traditional right of decision. 4. At all responsible levels, we ought to maintain a traditional right of participation, allowing a voting representation in reasonable proportion to the responsibility that each must discharge. 5. Throughout our structure, a traditional right of appeal ought to prevail so that minority opinion will be heard and personal grievances receive careful consideration. 6. The conference recognizes that the chief initiative and active responsibility in most world service matters should be exercised by the trustee members of the conference acting as the General Service Board. 7. The charter and bylaws of the General Service Board are legal instruments empowering the trustees to manage and conduct world service affairs. The conference charter is not a legal document. It relies upon tradition and the AA purse for final effectiveness. 8. The trustees are the principal planners and administrators of overall policy and finance. They have custodial oversight of the separately incorporated and constantly active services, exercising this through their ability to elect all the directors of these entities. 9. Good service leadership at all levels is indispensable for our future functioning and safety. Primary world service leadership, once exercised by the founders, must necessarily be assumed by the trustees. 10, every service responsibility should be matched by an equal service authority, with the scope of such authority well defined. 11, the trustees should always have the best possible committees, corporate service directors, executive staffs, and consultants. Composition, qualifications, induction procedures, and rights and duties will always be matters of serious concern. 12, the conference shall observe the spirit of AA tradition, taking care that it never becomes the seat of perilous wealth or power, that sufficient operating funds and reserve be its prudent financial principle, that it place none of its members in a position of unqualified authority over others, that it reach all important decisions by discussion, vote, and whenever possible, substantial unanimity, that its actions never be personally punitive nor an incitement to public controversy, that it never perform acts of government, that, like the society it serves, it will always remain democratic in thought and action. The text of the complete concepts is printed in the AA Service Manual, 12 Concepts for World Service, BM 31. This publication is available from the General Service Office, Grand Central Station, P.O. Box 459, New York, New York, 10163. The price is $1.55. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Oh, Sue is also our District 1 Treasurer, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Okay, and now Victor will read the 12 concepts in Spanish. Victor.
Buenos días a todos, mi nombre es Víctor, alcohólico.
Victor.
12 conceptos para el servicio mundial. Primero, la responsabilidad final y la autoridad fundamental de los servicios mundiales de AA deben siempre residir en la conciencia colectiva de nuestra comunidad. 2. La Conferencia de Servicios Generales se ha convertido en casi todos los aspectos en la voz activa y la conciencia efectiva de toda nuestra comunidad de los asuntos mundiales. 3. Para asegurar su dirección eficaz, debemos dotar a cada elemento de AA de la conferencia, la Junta de Servicios Generales y sus distintas corporaciones de servicio, personal directivo y comités ejecutivo de un derecho de decisión tradicional. 4. Nosotros debemos mantener a todos los niveles de responsabilidad un derecho de participación tradicional, ocupándonos de que cada clasificación o grupo de nuestros servicios mundiales les sea permitido una representación con voto en proporción razonable a la responsabilidad que cada uno tenga que desempeñar. 5. En toda nuestra estructura de servicio mundial, un derecho de apelación tradicional debe prevalecer, asegurándonos así que se escuche la opinión de la minoría y que las peticiones de la rectificación de los agravios personales sean considerados cuidadosamente. 6. La conferencia reconoce también que la principal iniciativa y la responsabilidad activa en la mayoría de estos asuntos debe ser ejercida, en primer lugar, por los miembros custodios de la conferencia, cuando ellos actúan como la Junta de Servicios Generales de Alcohólicos Anónimos. 7. La Carta Constitutiva y los estatutos son instrumentos legales y los custodios están, por consiguiente, totalmente autorizados para administrar y dirigir todos los asuntos de servicio. La Carta de la Conferencia en sí no es un instrumento legal. Se apoya en la fuerza de las tradiciones y en las finanzas de AA para su eficacia. 8. Los custodios son los principales planificadores y administradores de los grandes asuntos de la política y finanzas globales. Con respecto a nuestros servicios constantemente activos e incorporados separadamente, los custodios, como síndicos fiscales, ejercen una función de supervisión administrativa por medio de su facultad de elegir a todos los directores de estas entidades. 9. Buenos directores de servicio en todos los niveles son indispensables para nuestro funcionamiento y seguridad en el futuro. La Dirección Básica de Servicio Mundial, que una vez ejercieron los fundadores de Alcohólicos Anónimos, tiene necesariamente que ser asumida por los custodios. 10. A cada responsabilidad de servicio debe corresponderle una autoridad de servicio equivalente y el alcance de tal autoridad debe estar siempre bien definido. 11. Los custodios deben siempre contar con los mejores comités permanentes y directores de las corporaciones de servicio, ejecutivos, personal y oficina de consejeros bien capacitados. La composición, cualidades, procedimientos e iniciación y derechos de obligación serán siempre asuntos verdaderos de verdadero interés. 12. La conferencia cumplirá con el espíritu de las tradiciones de AA, teniendo especial cuidado que la conferencia nunca se convierta en sede peligrosa, riqueza o poder, que fondos suficientes para su funcionamiento más una reserva adecuada sea su prudente principio financiero, que ninguno de los miembros de la conferencia sea nunca colocado en una posición de autoridad desmedida sobre ninguno de los otros, que se llegue a todas las decisiones importantes y por discusión, votación y siempre que sea posible por unanimidad sustancial, que ninguna actuación de la conferencia sea punitiva a persona o incitación a controversia pública, que la conferencia nunca deba realizar ninguna acción de gobierno autoritaria y que toda la sociedad de Alcohólicos Anónimos a la cual sirve la conferencia en sí siempre permanezca democrática en pensamiento y en acción. Gracias.
Thank you, Victor. And now to read the 12 traditions in English is John H., one of our District 1 GSRs and also our District 1 Grapevine Chair.
Good morning. My name is John, and I am an alcoholic. These are the 12 traditions. 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants. They do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4. Each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all of our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thank you, John. And now Rodrigo will now read the 12 traditions in Spanish.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ricardo. I'm an alcoholic. My home train group is 4 de July, 4 de julio, de Reseda, California. Me toca leer los 12 tradiciones en español. Dice, primera tradición, nuestro bienestar común debe tener la preferencia. La recuperación personal depende de la unidad de Alcohólicos Anónimos. Segunda tradición, para el propósito de nuestro grupo solo existe una autoridad fundamental, un Dios amoroso tal y como se expresa en la conciencia de nuestro grupo. Nuestros líderes no son más que servidores de confianza, no gobiernan. Tercera tradición, el único requisito para ser miembro de Alcohólicos Anónimos es querer dejar de beber. Cuarta, cada grupo debe ser autónomo excepto en asuntos que afecten a otros grupos o a como un todo. Quinta tradición, cada grupo tiene un solo objetivo primordial, llevar el mensaje al alcohólico que aún está sufriendo. Sexta tradición, un grupo de Alcohólicos Anónimos no debe respaldar, financiar o prestar el nombre de Alcohólicos Anónimos a ninguna entidad, allegada o empresa ajena, para evitar que el problema de dinero y propiedad y prestigio nos desvíen de nuestro objetivo primordial. Séptima tradición, todo grupo de Alcohólicos Anónimos debe mantenerse completamente a sí mismo, negándose a recibir contribuciones de afuera. Octava tradición, Alcohólicos Anónimos nunca tendrá carácter profesional, pero nuestros centros de servicio pueden emplear trabajadores especiales. Novena tradición, Alcohólicos Anónimos como tal nunca debe ser organizada, pero podemos crear juntas o comités de servicio para que sean directamente responsables ante aquellos a quienes sirven. 10ª tradición, Alcohólicos Anónimos no tienen ninguna opinión acerca de asuntos ajenos a sus actividades. Por consiguiente, su nombre nunca debe mezclarse en polémicas públicas. 11ª tradición, nuestra política de relaciones públicas se basa más bien en la atracción y no en la promoción. Necesitamos mantener nuestro anonimato personal ante la prensa, radio, televisión, cine y Facebook. 12ª tradición, el anonimato es la base espiritual de todas nuestras tradiciones, recordándonos siempre anteponer los principios a las personalidades. Es todo, compañero, muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ricardo. And now, to read the statement of anonymity is one of our newest District 1 GSRs, Joni G. Joni?
I am standing up. And my name is Joni, and I am an alcoholic. And my new goal for this year is to be able to read and understand all of what we just read and understand in Spanish next year. So thank you so much. Okay, statement of anonymity. Almost went right through it. Okay.
Yeah, right there.
We seek your continued support by presenting AA members. A, only by first name. B, using no recognizable picture. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of our fellowship and assures our members that their recovery will be private. Often, the active alcoholic will avoid any source of help which might reveal his or her identity. Alcoholics Anonymous is not affiliated with any other organization, although many have adapted AA's 12 steps for their own use. AA is self-supporting, declining any outside contributions, and we are non-professional, offering only the voluntary support of one alcoholic helping another. Throughout the world, favorable media coverage has been a principal means of bringing alcoholics into our fellowship. You have helped make this possible, and for that, we thank you.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you.
We have 3 presentations today. They're approximately 10 to 15 minutes each with a short question and answer period afterward. And so at this time, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Lisa P., who is our Area 93 delegate, to present on the subject Anonymity, the spiritual foundation of all our traditions. Lisa?
You know me too well, right? Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa. I'm an alcoholic. And before I start, I want to thank the madam from Canoga Park for yielding her minutes to me, because she knows that I go over. And you know what? I mean, I tried to cut this and cut this and cut this. I was making myself crazy, so I am over, so shoot me. I'm still experimenting with home groups because my schedule doesn't allow me to go to my old home group anymore. But if I had to pick one, it would be the good, bad, and indifferent group. And also, just to let you guys know, I am also blessed beyond measure. It's an honor, privilege, and pleasure to serve you as your delegate. I brought some goodies here today. Final conference reports, if you haven't received one already. There's also a conference inventory report. Our conference took its inventory. And I have some buttons too. Thank you, Cindy. Or Vanna. Okay. And also, before I begin, so I have a disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this presentation are mine and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of this workshop, AA. All characters appearing in this work are fictitious. Any resemblance to real persons living or dead is purely coincidental. So it's merely my own experience, my own opinions, just as Lisa, just another member of Alcoholics Anonymous, sharing my own experience, not any type of official delegate edict or anything. However, whenever possible, I can and will, and have backed them up with AA literature. So, keeping it simple, much of what I have to say comes from our 12 and 12, short and long forms, from AA tradition, how it developed, and yes, of course, for those who know me, the dictionary. And please note, our traditions are not laws or rules or regulations. In fact, as Bill put it, should we ever harden too much, the letter of the law might crush the spirit. And the spirit was mentioned in Concept 12. One is not more important than the other. See what happens and think about what happens if you remove any one of them. They are not meant to be isolated and used as a weapon on someone for violating another one. It's just merely shared experience that was sort of codified from our anvils of experience, learned the hard way. Next. Strap yourselves in and put your seatbelts on tight. I am presenting these sort of backwards in reverse order. What? She's crazy. But am I? Hear me out first. There's a method to my madness. So contained within Tradition 12 is the word foundation. All structures start with a foundation. Consider this sort of the ice cream or the ice cream sundae or the bowl. Even though I believe that Tradition 1 sets the tone for all the rest of our traditions, I also view it as the cherry on the top, so I'm going to talk about it again at the end of the presentation. So in setting the tone, Tradition 1, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity, not just for now, but for future AAs. In fact, the verbiage contained in our Declaration of Unity starts off with, "This we owe to AA's future." So each member of AA is but a small part of a great whole. AA must live, or most of us will surely die. So, you know, the joke about the steps preventing suicide and the traditions preventing homicide and the concepts preventing genocide, well, you know, I don't know. It sounds like the traditions help to prevent genocide too. Most people don't get past our common welfare should come first and pretty much ignore the fact that personal recovery depends upon AA unity. You know, this means that I have to give up or abandon my demands and expectations and my unreasonable individualism and instead reduce them to preferences. And here's something else. Some may disagree with me in order for my own personal recovery too. Sorry about that. And some may disagree with me, but I've heard it from enough people I respect to believe it to be true, that logic and common sense dictate that it's true, that there's a big difference between our common welfare and everyone's welfare. Anyhow, this means sacrificing some things, and this sacrificial spirit is symbolized by anonymity. Anonymity is real humility at work. Humility merely meaning being right-sized. Humility expressed by anonymity, not just for me, but for AA too, because we're all AA. And it's not just about keeping my membership in AA a secret. So, you know, now you can see why anonymity, meaning humility and modesty, are the greatest safeguards AA can ever have. Humility means a modest view of one's own importance, not better or worse, courteous and respectful. Modesty means not being too proud or confident about self or abilities, unassuming or moderate in the estimation of one's abilities, limited or level, simplicity, avoid indecency or impropriety, freedom from conceit or vanity in speech and conduct. So remember these while I read Tradition 12. And another thing I want you to remember is our primary purpose, and this is taken from our 12 and 12, or maybe AA tradition, how it developed. AA is concerned solely with the personal recovery and continued sobriety of individual alcoholics who turn to the fellowship for help. Okay, here we go. Tradition 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities. So anonymity means a lack of outstanding individual or unusual features, impersonality, unacknowledged. It comes from the Greek word anonymia, meaning without a name or namelessness. It is a principle and concept widely recognized around the world as a technique of promoting and realizing certain values as integration. So think about our unity. Privacy, think about our own personal fear and embarrassment, as well as, for some people, as well as in Tradition 11, and neutrality. Think about outside issues. And objectiveness, again, think about like affiliation. And freedom and liberty. Think about our seventh tradition and self-support. So our co-founders were really smart and visionary when they came up with this one. This works not just individually and personally, but collectively. AA, that our movement not only preaches, but actually practices a true humility. The benefits and effects of anonymity are widespread. At its very core, the spiritual substance of anonymity is sacrifice. AA's 12 traditions repeatedly ask us to give up our natural and personal desires, self-denial, for the common good. We realize that the sacrificial spirit, well symbolized by anonymity, is the foundation of all our traditions. Self-sacrifice protects us from ourselves, not just from the outside world and them. So the spiritual, meaning the human, spirit, or soul, not just material or physical things, not religious beliefs. Foundation, underlying basis. I call it the golden thread. It's really just an outgrowth of the love and humility that we become from having worked the steps, and it sets us up to serve the concepts of all our traditions, not just some or most or few. And traditions are just merely a transmission device of customs or beliefs, in our case, shared experience from generation to generation, or the fact of being passed on this way, it's a historical convention. Practice or procedure, a custom observed in a group, especially to facilitate social interaction. So think about that, because our traditions are a tradition of relations, shared experience, codified in order for us to work and live together. That was the main concern of putting them together. Traditions are also a general agreement or acceptance of certain practices or attitudes. Again, just shared experience, not like rules and regulations. And, in fact, there's no enforcement mechanism. Only booze and love are our disciplinarians. There's no AA police. There's no AA jail. Well, think about it. Right? So principles are just a fundamental truth or proposition, a system of belief or reasoning, fundamental source of basis of something, a moral rule or belief that helps you to know what is right and wrong and influences, explains, guides, or should guide your actions. They represent what is desirable and positive for a person, group, organization, or community, and help it in determining the rightfulness or wrongfulness of its actions, behaviors, or thoughts. Principles are more than basic policy and objectives and are meant to govern both. So just which principles? They're spelled out in our traditions, but they're also spelled out in our big book and in our service manual. And personalities, characteristics or qualities, individual or distinct in character. So you can see how famous would make somebody different from somebody else. Principles before personalities, even my own. I can't insist on being right, what I want, my needs. I got to be a drunk amongst drunks, which is very important, because if I'm not a drunk amongst drunks, then I am separate and apart from and not a part of. This not only affects our unity, but then I cannot and you cannot, none of us can perform the single most powerful and effective thing we've got for us here in Alcoholics Anonymous, what our whole program of recovery is based on. Just one drunk talking to another. So more than this, a human amongst humans, a member of the human race. In fact, did you know that Bill and Bob were buried like ordinary human beings? No distinguishing anything, nothing extraordinary. As they said, they just wanted to be buried like other folk. So keep in mind what you just heard, and let's take a look at the remaining 10 and see what we need to sacrifice for our unity in order to place principles before personalities. I want you to ask yourself if you can see and hear in each one of them how we value our unity, how we have a modest view of our own importance, how we are not being too proud or confident about ourselves or our abilities, how we are being limited or level, how we're being simple, how we're practicing simplicity, not trying to be better, freedom from conceit or vanity, or worse than anyone or anything else, and how we are being courteous and respectful in each one of our traditions. Tradition 11, our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. Anonymity before the general public doesn't just prevent our reputation from being tarnished, it also prevents AA's reputation. Anonymity is a cornerstone of our public relations policy. By doing or not doing something, it has a profound effect. Ergo, gotta renounce public glorification in public. 100% anonymity at the public altitude. Some of what we are doing is turning AA into a vaudeville act. AA cannot be a vaudeville act. Our public relations policy is based on attraction. There are certain things that I try to do or try not to do, and I'll tell you stories about, Radford and this one bowling alley if you want to hear. But I was talking to Lynn earlier about how AA is getting a really bad reputation in the San Fernando Valley. So, my sponsor and most of her sponsees, nearly all of her sponsors, take this to a level of perfect hair and wardrobe. I am not there yet, at all times. But I can tell you that I don't wear AA T-shirts or drunk junk. How many here know that AA does not make anything on drunk junk? I was at several meetings where a lot of people think that AA makes its money from the sale of jewelry and stuff. It doesn't. I don't have an AA bumper sticker on my car because my driving isn't always attractive. This is not necessarily on purpose, sometimes it's an accident, and the other thing is I also need to act better than I feel, and I will tell you about my hysterical story making copies at Staples one day. Our relations with the general public should be characterized by personal anonymity. Never need to praise ourselves. Think about modesty. Social media, digital age. Well-intentioned. There's a lot of well-intentioned stuff on Facebook and that, but you know what? The road to hell is paved with good intentions. We need to think about short-term gains and immediate advantages versus future liabilities. By doing certain things, I am effectively taking over AA as a whole's public relations. And unless I fully understand what AA's public relations policy is, I have no business dabbling in that arena. That's like giving a hand grenade to a 2-year-old. So there are things that I may do or may not do that will discredit AA and the public confidence in AA. In the past, because of our modesty, our press, public relations, and professionals felt really good about us. But it's not as true today as it used to be. Tradition 10. Tradition 10 has no outside opinion on outside issues, no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. And this means we can't even, not even things to implicate AA. Politics, alcohol reform, sectarian religion, express any opinion on outside controversial issues. Republicans versus Democrats, spanking religions, NRA, express no view whatsoever. AA groups oppose no one. Sit there for a while and think about what happened to the Washingtonians. Oh, right, they no longer exist. So take a moment right now and imagine where this course would lead us and what would happen to us if we were to take a public stance on, let's say immigration or global warming or Planned Parenthood or campaign reform or malaria in Africa, or if AA were to back Trump or Hillary. We got to be careful even at the group level. Consider, I've been to some meetings where they've been Republican bashing sessions. I've been to some meetings where they've turned into Democrat bashing sessions. How is that being anonymous? How is that like no opinion on outside issues? I might go to my sponsor or a closed-mouthed friend or someone, but I cannot and really shouldn't talk about these things at the group level. AA and alcoholism is the principle. All this other stuff is the personalities. So, this might discredit AA. Think about, will other people want to approach us or stay with us if they hear those things in meetings? Tradition 9. AA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. We have no real authority from our titles. They're merely job descriptions. What we do, just job descriptions, no governing. Not organized in the traditional or usual sense of the word. There's some things that we have to do legally. Got to have some kind of structure in order to be effective and efficient. But not like, like an organization. No rules, regulations, dues, authority, obedience. No enforcement mechanisms. No. If we do these things, then it's no longer service, no longer the spirit of service. We are no longer equals, and rotation prevents a proprietary attitude of ownership of these service positions. Tradition 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 12-step work is never to be paid for, but there are some things that are beyond normal step work. There's a big difference between paying for 12-step work and for other things, and if we don't do these jobs ourselves, think about consistency, continuity, and prudence, we would have to get or hire like non-AAs to do them. And think about this, how many people would work all day for free, all week for a prolonged period of time for free? And if you and I, we did get paid, wouldn't you want to get paid the going rate? We don't pay people less and exploit them because they are AA members, and we don't pay them more because they are AA and special alcoholics. AA is no different than anywhere else. Professional AAs also, like for 12-step work, professional AAs also create this elite stratification of drunks, and it's no longer one drunk talking to another. So, and that makes us like not really a part of the fellowship, and professionalism also defeats our singleness of purpose. Tradition 7, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. So regarding corporate poverty, nothing can so surely destroy our spiritual heritage as futile disputes over property, money, and authority. Prudent reserves, no stated AA purpose, I just want you to know that every single problem, every downfall, and I can name a whole bunch of them later, have come from prudent reserves that are like there's just too much money in the prudent reserve and there's no stated purpose, and we can talk about that one later. But also when we become a business concern, we're no longer a spiritual entity. So large gifts from any source, even within our fellowship, not just without, or contributions carrying any obligation and earmarking, we pay our own way. No unhealthy dependence, not beholden to anyone, collectively and individually and personally. That ensures our unity and freedom. And later on, I'll give you a really great example of something that happened in the Boy Scouts. But I can tell you that, just really quickly, they do accept outside contributions, and so they are beholden to a lot of their contributors. And if they have certain policies that they have to change, if they change them, they're going to piss off this group. If they don't change, they're going to piss off that group. They're stuck. There's no freedom. Tradition 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, lest, and that means for fear that, not unless, problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. So you can really see the unity and the modesty in that. Money, property, authority, conflict, and controversy. Not just for us. It's egotistical for us to believe that we have the answers to everything and can and will change the world. Actual or implied. Education, spiritual, medical, reform, politics. Now here's a real nightmare. Picture this one. What if I were to open up Lisa Part's AA something or other, and I start and I open up AA to all kinds of liability things, and by exploiting the AA name for personal gain, it diverts me from my primary. It creates confusion and may discredit AA. It diverts us from our primary aim, and it's big shotism on my part, and people will wonder about our motives here in AA. Tradition 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. Unity in how we have a modest view of our own importance, how we are not being too proud or confident about our abilities, keeping it limited and simple. Tradition 4, each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Autonomy just means self-governing. It does not mean that I or we can do whatever the hell we want without any regard for anyone else regardless. because there's that accept part, accept in matters affecting other groups, or AA as a whole. Tradition 3, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. Membership ought to include all who suffer from alcoholism. Membership not depend on money or conformity. So have fun with this one. Imagine, if you can, one alcoholic judging another alcoholic, one drunk being more worthy than another one. No one is better or worse than anyone else. Tradition 2, for our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as he may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. If it ain't loving and it ain't from a group, then it ain't a group conscience. I'm not God, I'm not president or czar or fascist dictator of AA, I do not govern. That's why we have a group conscience. Anonymity expressed through humility. It's the difference between God and me, and I can't take credit for this when I heard it at a literature workshop. God does not think he's Lisa. So I just have an opinion amongst drunks, part of a group conscience. And of course there's a group conscience, an informed group conscience, and opinion. There are differences between the two, and a well-informed group conscience. Now I'm going to wrap it up. So back to tradition 1. So again, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity, not just for us now, but for the future AAs. In fact, the verbiage, again, in the Declaration of Unity is that we owe this to AA's future. We are AA. It's my future too, not just everyone else's. So I got to do these things. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, principles before personalities. Great modesty and humility are needed by every AA for his own personal recovery. We believe that each one of us takes a part in the weaving of a protective mantle, which covers our whole society, under which we may grow and work in unity. So keep in mind what you just heard. What we need to sacrifice for our unity in order to place principles before personalities. I want you to ask yourselves again if you can see and hear in each one of them how anonymity is the foundation of all our traditions, how they allow us to have a modest view of our own importance, to be not too proud or confident in ourselves or our abilities, how we are being limited and level, how we're being simple and practicing simplicity, how we are not being better, freedom from conceit or vanity, or worse than anyone or anything else, and how these traditions also help us to be courteous and respectful. So they originally named 12 points to assure our future. Everything might seem pretty groovy right now, or some don't think so, but it's something to think about. What if the AA members before us had done certain things or not done certain things? Where would we be then, today? So before we go and do all of these things or not do all of these things, or even a few of them, think about the alkies of the future. This is one of the reasons why I love general service. I can't pay it back, but I can pay it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Our next subject was one that we also came up with during that discussion that we had, I was telling you about earlier at Bob's Big Boy that night in Northridge. And that was the idea that not only is the concept of anonymity the foundation of our traditions, but it's basically the foundation of our 12 steps also. And so now here to speak on that subject is our area treasurer, Cindy T., who will present on anonymity as humility, practicing these principles in all our affairs. Cindy?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cindy, and I am an alcoholic. Hi. My home group is God's in Charge, Wednesday nights in Canoga Park. And I have the honor and privilege of serving Area 93 as their Panel 65 treasurer. I would like to thank John for asking me to participate this morning, and I would also like to thank the San Fernando Valley Convention Committee for this early morning time slot. Good morning. All right, so my topic this morning is anonymity as humility, practicing these principles in all our affairs. In Bill W.'s last message given at the New York Intergroup's annual dinner in 1970, he describes anonymity as having two attributes that are essential for our survival as individuals and for the fellowship: the spiritual and the practical. He says that on a practical level, anonymity has brought protection for the newcomer, respect and support of the world outside of AA, and security from those who would use AA for sick and selfish purposes. He goes on to say that it is on the spiritual level that anonymity demands the greatest discipline we are capable of. You know, I remember when I was first sober, I was so amazed that I could stay stopped for more than one day that I just wanted to shout out to everyone, "Hey, look at me, I'm sober, and I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous." Wow, how anonymous is that? Thank goodness I am not the same person today. But in order to grow and change into the woman I am today, I not only had to learn about the principles of AA through the steps, traditions, and concepts, but I also had to learn to apply them in my own life, my entire life. The 12 and 12 states that our steps are a group of principles, spiritual in nature, which, if practiced as a way of life, can expel the obsession to drink and enable the sufferer to become happily and usefully whole. I'm not cured of alcoholism. However, by applying these principles in every area of living, my home life, social life, business life, my financial affairs, etc., on a daily basis, I can maintain my sobriety, be happy most of the time, and comfortable being who I am. The 12 and 12 talks about humility immensely in Step 7, telling us that the attainment of greater humility is the foundation principle of each of the 12 steps. Without some degree of humility, alcoholics cannot stay sober at all. Without humility, I don't have much of a chance of becoming happy, and I cannot live to much useful purpose. Or, in the face of adversity, I won't be able to summon the faith to meet any emergency. Without humility, will I drink again? I truly, truly believe so. So what does humility, or the absence of self-pride, self-will, or self-assertion have to do with anonymity and practicing the principles and staying sober and being happy? Let's take a look at each of the principles of the 12 steps and the common thread of humility associated with them. Honesty is the principle behind Step 1. I have to concede to my innermost self that I am an alcoholic and my life is unmanageable. The humility here is in learning I'm not unique. I am the same as every other AA member out there in our fellowship. I'm not better than, I'm not less than anybody. Now see, I use this lesson in other areas of my daily life, especially at work, where we're all a team and we're all on the same playing field. Nobody is better than any other coworker. We all work together for a common cause. Right, Amy? Okay, just checking. Most AAs say that hope is the principle behind Step 2, and I definitely agree with that. But in this instance, I like to think that the humility in this step is in remembering that self-will is not the way to go. In work or other relationships, I make it a practice not to be the director and run the show. I go along for the ride. I listen to others for their ideas and their inspirations. I have learned that there is one God, and I'm not it. I just can't keep stepping all over other people and expect them not to retaliate. It's just so much easier to be happy than it is to be right. The faith and commitment that lies in step 3 has taught me the most spiritual thing that I can do is to do exactly what I say I'm going to do. No excuses, just suit up and show up for life. Having faith that everything will turn out just fine. Step 4, shown me the courage to look at myself honestly, without denial, in every aspect of my life. I need to be able to honestly look at the problem, me, and ask for help to find the solution in you and in God. I find that in my life today, there are only solutions and not problems. At least I strive for it anyway. The integrity and truth that I learned in step 5 helped me just to be me. Just to be me. I don't need to embellish on who I am or what I've done. I am just me. I no longer have to base my life on the lies and the stories I used to tell just to get you to like me. Step 6 and 8 teach me that willingness is the key to unlock the door of opportunity. No matter where I am or what I'm doing, as long as I'm willing to participate or do whatever is asked of me to do, I will keep the attitude of gratitude. One of my favorite lines in the Big Book on page 27, where it talks about being able to go anywhere on this earth where other free men may go without disaster, provided I remain willing to maintain a simple, certain attitude. And that simple, certain attitude starts with my willingness. The 7th step is all about humility and how to move closer into humility where I can and asking for help where I need it. This is where I grow and change, and I don't need to be the big shot. I can just be a little part of the bigger whole. I learn how to respond as opposed to react, and this is where I become right-sized in the world about me. Forgiveness comes around in step 9. I learn how to forgive along with being forgiven. This opens my heart and my soul to really hear what you're saying. It's all about learning to love despite the humanness of the people I come in contact with, accepting them for everything they are, and the good and the not so good. Vigilance, perseverance, and maintenance are provided by step 10. Here I can begin to practice justice, kindness, and courtesy to my fellows. It keeps my big shotism in check. Once again, I become right-sized. Spirituality, that's the principle behind step 11. Spirituality is the foundation of our program. This is where I learn to practice spiritual beliefs. I ask for guidance in how to carry it out, pausing when agitated and asking for help, practicing God's will and not my own. Usually when there are too many roadblocks, it's my will. Things go a lot smoother when it's God's will. Everything just seems to kind of fall into place. And finally, step 12 is all about service. Passing on this message and practicing all these principles in all my affairs. Whether I'm in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous or I'm at work, or maybe I'm in the grocery store with a basket full of groceries and I let the guy behind me with a gallon of milk go ahead of me. And when I'm working at the area level, I'm doing my part in assuring that AA is around for the next alcoholic like me. Anonymity is humility when I talk about service. Any kind of service work for the greater good, whether it's at work, in my relationships with family, friends, business associates, co-workers, or any person I come into contact with. I don't have to be in the spotlight today, making everything about me. There's no need to scream from the rooftop that I helped another human being. I don't have to take out an ad in the daily newspaper saying, I'm sober, I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I become spiritual. Let me lead by example, quietly. Let my actions and my attitude show you I do practice these principles in all my affairs. After all, actions do speak louder than words. Practicing these principles anonymously gives me a higher self-esteem and a much better character than the character I was when I was drinking. It has given me peace and serenity, calmness, if you will. The void that I have been looking for to fill all those years has finally been filled with love and gratitude for life. Ralph P., the first Roman Catholic priest that became a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, says that all unhappy people in AA, and all unhappy people, period, have never begun to or have not continued to apply the most important part of the whole program for continued sobriety and happiness, to practice these principles in all our affairs. In closing, I will leave you with Dr. Bob's plaque that he kept on his desk, and I keep a little mimeograph copy on my desk. Humility, a perpetual quietness of the heart. It is to have no trouble. It's never to be fretted or vexed, irritable or sore, to wonder at nothing that is done to me, and to feel nothing is done against me. It is to be at rest when nobody praises me, and when I'm blamed or despised, it is to have a blessed home in myself where I can go in, shut the door, and pray to my Father in secret and be at peace. As in a deep sea of calmness, when all around and about is seeming trouble. I want to thank you all for allowing me to participate in this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And next, I thought that we would be remiss if we didn't address the subject of anonymity in electronic communication. That's something we typically, the first thing that comes to mind when we think of the concept of anonymity. And I thought, who better to present on this subject than our Area 93 Chairman, Jeff G., who, by the way, is an IT professional in his day job. Jeff?
Thank you, John. Good morning. My name is Jeff G., and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Jeff.
My home group is the Sunrise Sunset Group of North Hollywood. I am currently blessed to serve as your Area 93 Panel 65 chairperson. I would like to thank the San Fernando Valley AA Convention Planning Committee for allowing me the opportunity to participate in this panel. My topic today is anonymity in electronic communication. Let me first make clear, not only am I not an expert at this topic, I don't even have accounts on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, or most other social media communication mechanisms. I do have a Facebook account, which I maybe log into once a week, but I do not know much about how to use it. That's what my 25-year-old daughter is for. And I know little about the security options. There is something I do know and feel very strongly about. AA has asked me to do this presentation, and when I get such a request, if at all possible, I say yes. My sobriety, the sobriety of others, and the future of AA depends on this fact. So here I am. I will say, and I think this is what led me to being asked to do this presentation, that I do have much computer experience and cybersecurity knowledge and expertise. I currently work as a computer systems engineer and information systems security officer at an aerospace firm. In this job, I do handle sensitive electronic information, and thus I have been briefed and trained on how to handle such data. Also, the job requires me to be briefed on how to use and how to not use social media. This is done to protect myself and my company from actions or lack thereof. So I guess we'll go with my experience in these areas as my qualification. Regardless, I will share with you my experience as we do in AA and what I have learned in reading about this topic. Hopefully it can be insightful. Not having a good grip on the use of much of today's electronic communication, at least in the area of social media, put me up front at a disadvantage, so I looked for where to start. Well, I reread the AA guidelines on the internet, and I mean the internet guidelines, not reading the guidelines on the internet, although that's how I did read them. Was that confusing? Well, AA has guidelines that pertain to the internet. I reread those. I also reread the pamphlet Understanding Anonymity, and of course our 12th tradition long form. I quickly found that there is so much written in AA literature on this topic, I could spend months reading it all. Well, that didn't happen. I did choose several other very useful sources. I found an article in the October 2010 Grapevine helpful. And lastly, for purposes of my presentation, there was PRASA 2012. The theme was Anonymity, Our Spiritual Responsibility in the Digital Age. Panel 5 was titled The Digital Age. I went back and listened several times to those presentations, specifically ones made by Chase B. and Debbie D. Thank God for PRASA. Really. Is it March yet? I'd like to start by defining the words and phrases in my topic. First, anonymity, which we've already heard a great deal of. In the pamphlet, Understanding Anonymity, it identifies two equally vital functions. One, at the personal level, anonymity provides protection for all members from identification as alcoholics, a safeguard often of special importance to newcomers. At the public level of press, radio, film, TV, and other media technologies, such as the internet, anonymity stresses the equality in the fellowship of all members by putting the brake on those who might otherwise exploit their AA affiliation to achieve negotiation power or personal gain. Expanding on the second of these functions, we have equality and thus humility. I often like to refer back to Tradition 12 in the statement, we are to actually practice a genuine humility. So in summary, protection from identification as alcoholics and equality of all members. Now let's look at the phrase electronic communication. The phrase can be as broad as this subject is within AA. Let's try to narrow it down a bit. I spent some time looking at definitions of this term. They range from the simplistic communication by computer to the LII, or Legal Information Institute definition, which says, any transfer of signs, signals, writing, images, sounds, data, or intelligence of any nature transmitted in whole or in part by a wire, radio, electromagnetic, photoelectric, or photo-optical system. Wow. This latter definition gets cluttered even more. The original text in 1986 was interpreted as actually excluding the wire transmission that occurs with wireless phones between the base unit and the handset. This has since been clarified and is included in the legal definition by the courts. I think I'm going to stick with something closer to the first definition, communication by computer. Even here we have a large array of items, For purposes of this talk, I will concentrate on what I believe would most likely have an impact on most of us on a daily basis and how it affects anonymity. That would include email, texting, and social media. By social media, I'm referring to, and again, I had to look up definitions, Merriam-Webster, forms of electronic communication as websites for Forms of electronic communication as websites for social networking and microblogging through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content such as videos. So basically, social websites such as Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, and the communication that occurs therein. Bill Wilson said in a July 1945 Grapevine article, discussing what would become the part of our traditions that state, at the level of press, radio, and film, Bill called it any medium of public circulation. That was 1945. There's one last item I would like to include in my discussion of the meaning of this topic. In the AA guidelines of the Internet, there is a section called Spiritual Considerations. Please listen closely as I read, for this has considerable impact on this conversation. It states, based on AA's strength and history of personal and intimate sharing, the spiritual nature of one drunk talking to another is an ongoing concern when discussing technology as a source of AA information. Even many internet-savvy AA members say that they do not want the ease of new technology to detract from the one-on-one sharing that has been so essential to our fellowship and our recovery from alcoholism. Here's the important part. It is helpful to remember that there is no need to let the speed of technology dictate the speed of our actions. The guidelines go on. Based on shared experience to date, website committees not only discuss the technical aspects of developing a website, but also address questions related to preserving the spiritual connection created by one alcoholic talking to another. Some committees have reported a loss of personal touch when relying too heavily on technology, while others report that they have found a balance that works well for them. It will be up to a committee's or group's informed group conscience to determine what AA content is useful and appropriate. The good news is, and again, here's the important part, that today's decisions can be reviewed, revised, abandoned, or expanded. A committee or group can always try something for a certain length of time and then come back and determine how well it is working. This is the AA way. This last sentence may sound a little counterintuitive. Well, we all know that what goes on the internet stays on the internet, at least somewhere. But what they are referring to, in addition to structure, is our method of communicating in those media spaces. Let me bring up our primary purpose, to carry the message. Well, it means carrying the message wherever we are. The internet is no different. Having focused the term of our topic a little better, let's see what we have. We all want to be able to use and benefit from the technologies at our fingertips. I think we have all gotten accustomed to email, and most of us even texting to communicate. It's sort of an instant gratification most of the time. So let's discuss email first. Of course, as it pertains to AA-related messages, or at least where the content does or may contain references to AA or our membership. Going back to the AA guidelines, it says, when using email, it is necessary to consider the anonymity of the recipients of messages. Sending messages to multiple recipients that disclose the email addresses of everyone on the addressee's list is a potential break of someone else's anonymity. Therefore, it is a good idea to obtain a recipient's explicit permission before using his or her email address for AA correspondence, especially if it is a workplace email address. When sending AA mail to multiple recipients who wish to remain anonymous, use can be made of the BCC blind courtesy copy option available on most computers. It really amounts to thinking about what we're doing. I find it funny they define BCC as blind courtesy copy. I believe the correct term is blind carbon copy, although maybe we're losing touch with the concept of a carbon copy. I digress. What about texting? This is in most cases a one-on-one situation, but not always. We can certainly send a group text. Again, it's about thinking of the effect before we act. This can be easier said than done, especially with texting. Remember, I mentioned instant gratification. Texting is usually much quicker and impromptu compared to email. But if we are serious about our anonymity and others, we should take that into consideration. The most complex component of our topic is certainly social media. In this space, it is far easier for things to become public than with email and texting. Again, caution and thought of what we're doing matters greatly. In the October 2010 article in the Grapevine I referenced earlier, it says, at first glance, this, anonymity on the internet, seems pretty clear. No full names or pictures on any publicly accessible website, but chat rooms, online meetings, and emails are acceptable places to break our own anonymity if we wish to. The pamphlet, Understanding Anonymity, is trying to set up a distinction between private and public internet usage. Unfortunately, I believe it falls well short of comprehensively defining this distinction. One could easily say that breaking anonymity on a national news organization site is forbidden, but a break in an email to a friend is acceptable. A personal blog that is publicly searchable would also fall into the public category. The article continues, but what about social networking sites? These widely used sites have their own security protocols, some of which are fully customizable by the individual users, if they know how. They have their own levels of public and private, further complicating the issue. For instance, I can set up my personal page to be viewed by my friends, people I've approved to view my page only, preventing anyone else from seeing the information listed. Can I break my anonymity on this level, where only my friends can see? Wouldn't this be merely the virtual equivalent of gathering all my friends in a room and telling them, hey, I'm in AA? The article goes on to talk about how the issue here is not only anonymity but affiliation. Again from the pamphlet, Understanding Anonymity, AA members may disclose their identity and speak as recovered alcoholics, giving radio, TV, and internet interviews without violating their traditions, so long as their AA membership is not revealed. So we have Traditions 6 and 11 to consider here too. It's good to keep in mind, if there is a question when we blog, text, or tweet, we should assume it's at the public level. Our AA guidelines say as much. I think there's a common thread through all of this other than just think before we act. Although the use of electronic communication has changed our way of communicating, it is also still changing itself as we speak and requires continued attention and possible adjustment in regards to how we use it. I refer back to my quote from the AA Internet Guidelines. Remember, it stated, "The good news is that today's decisions can be reviewed, revised, abandoned, and expanded." How important is this? This is the AA way, it said. I think we should all remember that piece of advice. At this point, I thought I would share a personal experience that is directly related to our topic. My wife and I have a couple who have been dear friends of us for over 30 years, from before my wife and I were married. In fact, before they were married. At the end of my drinking, when my wife had kicked me out of our house and I was living in my car, I showed up at this couple's house one night. They let me stay, but having spoken to my wife, who was now going to Al-Anon meetings, they asked me to leave the next day. Anyway, when I turned 1 year sober, they held a party for me. It was pretty cool. The point of this story is, when I turned 10, the wife of the couple, who was a friend of mine on Facebook, wrote on my page, "I am so proud of how you have turned your life around and what you've done in AA." Well, I immediately removed it once I figured out how. I did not unfriend her. I did not get angry. After all, in this case, she was not even a member of AA. The next time I saw her, I explained that we can't have our full names connected at that level with Alcoholics Anonymous. She understood, of course. She was being so sincere with heartfelt thanks that her friend had gotten better and with the help of AA. She meant no harm, but yet it was potentially harmful to me in AA. In this case, it was an innocent act by a non-member, but the point is, it's easy for this to occur. I found something else in the 2010 Grapevine article that I wanted to include and share. The author put together a suggestion list, a list of do's and don'ts for anonymity-protected usage of social networking sites. Don't join any group with Alcoholics Anonymous in its name, even if there's a disclaimer. Don't disclose that you are an AA member if you choose to join a group for people in recovery. Talk in general terms about meetings, recovery, and steps. Don't post a message on someone's wall regarding meetings, sobriety, or AA. Don't publish pictures from AA functions with your friends in them unless you have their permission. Make sure that these pictures are viewable by your friends only. Do, if you choose to, out yourself on your profile page. Make sure the page is accessible only to your friends, not to the general public. Do, when creating an AA-related event on the site, make sure that it is private so that invitees don't have their anonymity broken when they decide to attend. Make the guest list an AA-related event. Make the guest list of an AA-related event hidden. I thought this was a good set of guidelines, if you will. Apparently, so did the Grapevine. Before I wrap up my talk, I wanted to share this quote, which was used at the 2012 PRASA. In 1960, Bill Wilson said, "Nothing matters more to AA's future welfare than the manner in which we use the colossus of modern communication. Used unselfishly and well, it can produce results surpassing our present imagination." So in closing, I'll say this. I believe anonymity will always be our spiritual foundation, and electronic communication will always be part of our world. Used wisely, we can protect our anonymity and the anonymity of others while serving our primary purpose, using electronic communication to carry the message to the alcoholic who still suffers, both now and in the future, and for as long as God will have us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a few minutes left for a question and answer period. Does anyone have any questions for any of our panelists? Anyone who would like Lisa to tell one of those stories that she mentioned a little while ago? Oh, yes.
Could I just say thank you so much for all that hard work?
Yes. You're welcome. Yes.
I'm not calling named Ron. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very well. Two quick
Yeah, Lisa?
I wish I could report something more concrete about the translation of the Big Book into Navajo, but the last report I got was that it was still being it was still in the final, how do I put it? It's still being worked on. I'm going to keep it simple. It's still being worked on. What had happened is that there was great momentum, and because there were only a few people who were able to work on the translation, they were starting to burn out, and there was a call for more translators, which not only added more to the stable of translators, but also re-energized the other ones. And they went back, they're back at it again. But there's much editing that needs to be done. As you know, that there's no, this is not something that is in writing. It is a spoken language, and it has to be recorded. And, great care is made in the translation of our AA materials. So I hope to have something more concrete later, but I'm constantly asking our trustee Joel about that, because that's placed on my heart too. And as for the plain language Big Book, it was the agenda item. It was on the preliminary agenda list. We shall see if it continues on and makes it to the final agenda list. If you have any thoughts or feelings that you want to share about it, please do. And what else did you want to know about the plain language? What does it mean? This is kind of tricky, because the how do I put it? I'm trying to remain respectful of the conference process, but the thing is that because I asked for an example, samples of what exactly that would what it would look like and what it would sound like, and that will officially come out when we get the background materials and the final agenda, which is like mid-February. February 16th, I believe, is the date for delivery. So I can't talk too much about it, but I can tell you that I know some people who were instrumental in it. So on an unofficial level, as far as just my relationships with certain people, I can tell you that the spirit behind it is that there are concerns about literacy rates and English proficiency, and just the melting pot that the world is becoming. So if you're looking for an official example of what that plain language is going to look like and sound like, you'll have to wait till February 16th. But there does seem to be, regardless of any of this, there does seem to be a desire for something simpler. So does that answer?
Yeah, that answers it.
Okay, thank you.
We've probably got time for one more question, if anyone has a question. Story request?
You guys want to hear the staple story? Yes.
Okay.
So, all right. So it was okay. Really quickly. So it was one of those weeks where everything possibly that could go wrong was going wrong. I had to make copies for I think it was an area assembly or an area committee meeting. I forget which one it was. So I have massive volumes of AA material, and I go to Staples to make these copies, and I thought I had plenty of time. Well, every single machine broke. There was some kind of problem with this one, some kind of problem with that one, some kind of problem with that one. It was like one thing right after another. And I was almost ready to have a meltdown. And I was just thinking, you know what? I have to act much better than I feel right now, because here's all this AA material. It certainly would not be attractive. So, thank you.
She said, did someone else have a question real quick? Yes. Yes, sir.
Hi, David Alcoholic. About anonymity at the level of books. And say you can write a novel and talk about AA, but if it's a memoir, what would one do? Is it just not saying the name Alcoholics Anonymous and just talking about meetings or a program? Is that the solution for that if it's a memoir?
Thank you. Oh, I love that. Cindy, Alcoholic. Okay, this is a personal opinion. It has nothing to do with Alcoholics Anonymous. I can just tell you from what I have learned in the past that, especially like on Facebook, I'm going to use Facebook or memoirs, is that if I mention that I'm in recovery, that's a broad umbrella of all the different 12-step programs. I can talk about meetings. I can talk about having a sponsor because they do that too. Just don't use Alcoholics Anonymous because that is going to put AA in the spotlight and you're not protecting its anonymity. Thanks.
I just wanted to add a PS to that one because, you know, we can also do things like, say, for instance, you're on a radio show and you don't mention your membership in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And you just say, you know, I'm Lisa. But if I add any type of very definitive distinguishing remarks about Lisa, like I'm Lisa, the barista who works at the Starbucks at the corner of, you know, Laurel and Ventura. I'm the one with the green hair. People are going to know, you know. So, you know, even though I may not say I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous or whatever, if it's too distinctive, it's just as bad as breaking your anonymity. So.
And one other quick thought on that. You know, I've read the some of the the guidelines, and it specifically said we can give interviews or write books and things about being a recovering alcoholic and talk about 12-step programs, but we can't connect it to Alcoholics Anonymous. So, another thought.
Yeah, Michelle, you have a question? Anybody got an answer for that? No?
There's a question.
Oh, yes, one more question?
So, like on Facebook,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, like on Facebook, it's your birthday, you want to put, I want to thank God and do this for my sobriety today, you know. So that's breaking the anonymity of AA.
Yes.
But other people, friends that I know, drink and use, and they see AA and like, says, wow, maybe there's something there, you know. So I don't know if that's actually breaking the anonymity, because I see it all over Facebook, you know.
Yeah, and there are distinctions in part of what I was talking about in regards to public and private. The problem is with some of these social media that I think we have to be very clear and understand exactly what it is that we're doing. If it truly is private and it is to a group of 10 friends that are in AA, and you mention that, then that's okay. But you know, it's real easy to let that out and have it become public. So if there's ever any question, you should assume that it's at the public level.
I didn't want Michelle's question about the new pair of glasses Chuck C book to go unanswered. You know what? I've read it. It's been like a long time since I've read it, so I can't personally speak to any of it because I can't remember if there's any references to Alcoholics Anonymous in there. And you know, even if I did remember if there was any references to Alcoholics Anonymous in there, because you know, there are lots of other books that are written that use the person's first name and last initial only, and they're not even AA related. But even so, I have a personal opinion, and then there's like, you know, how it relates to traditions and all of that. So that's a really good question, and we can go into it like later after the meeting. You can give me more details, and I'm like more than happy to look it up for you. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, John, that's really all the time we have, but thank you. Oh, thank you, John.
That was,
right.
I think that was part of the.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, in true area assembly fashion, we will form a little circle around the room like we usually do at our assemblies, and we will close with the responsibility pledge and then a brief moment of meditation, and we'll close with the Lord's Prayer.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right, but I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.